This is Harry Gines, the first black man of reparations in U.S. history, coming to you today with another presentation of The Invisible Man. Now, the Invisible Man is someone who we know by other presentations is Ralph Ellison. He is the creator of The Invisible Man. Now, Harry Gines being the first man of reparation, case number 99-10-255. That case is a case that can be used that will support U.S. blacks from the descendants of slavery. Now, that case, some people say that it's complicated, but yet my challenge today is for those in the education field to be able to explain what Lincoln wrote. That is my challenge today. Now, also, the Invisible Man may take certain icons who are invisible because you may see them in a certain light that you may not have never expected them to be in. Now, if I can just get straight to the meat of where I'm going with this presentation today. The presentation today features the icon, as we know, Bill Cosby. How is it possible that Bill Cosby could be invisible? No, not because he's incarcerated. That's bringing the presentation along too fast. The Invisible Man may take his time and try to explain how Bill Cosby is invisible. And like I said, it is not because he's incarcerated. That is part of the problem, that when it comes to icons, how life seems to cease. Their life seems to come to a halt where they're shunned. They're shunned by the world. Now, in Bill Cosby's situation, if I can again go straight to the meat, I could show you a film that you have never seen Bill Cosby in a particular area that you may be not known him to be in. He may not have been in this situation. You may have heard him being called an icon, but yet what would really give him the credence to be considered an icon? Because he's just been in Hollywood a long time? No, he put work in for the descendants of African American slavery. He put work in. Now, have you ever really seen Bill Cosby putting work in? I'm not talking about being interviewed by other journalists. No, I'm not talking like that. There's plenty of interviews that Bill Cosby has had, but that's not the type of work that I'm referring to. I'm talking about something of a perspective that he brought to the world, but yet it never quite made it. We live today in the 21st century, as we like to call it, a high-tech era. It is a high-tech era, and we would like to believe everything that tech brings to the screen. That's fine, you could do that. But yet, how is it possible that a film, a documentary film on black history, never seemed to made it to the largest part of the population of U.S. blacks, let alone the rest of the world? Now, I say that because the film can be found on YouTube. Now, I could show you the film. I could show it to you. I could show it to you today. But yet, if I did that, that wouldn't be the most beneficial thing in trying to represent Mr. Cosby. Are you getting that in your screen? That is the name of the film that we're trying to speak about. I could bring you this film. Obviously, I have it, but I'm not going to show it today. For no other reason, just simply I'm not going to show it today. I could also show it to you on my 60-inch screen, like I told you. It's on YouTube. This very film that I'm trying to bring to the world. Now, Look at that film. Take a good look at that so you'll be able to say you know what I'm referring to. And you know who produced it. This is a CBS production. But yet it never got to the public as, how would you say, mainstream. Mainstream has nothing that I can recollect in my 62 years. I've never seen it. And his perspective that he brings, it's diversity. It is diversity. Some parts of it is very much diverse. But yet, the film dates back to 1968. You know, there is some question of it as far as when it was actually produced, the time frame. There is some question to it. Some say 72. But however, it being between the era of 1968 and 1972, I mean, that's a long time ago. And yet, this is why I say Bill Cosby, as an icon, putting in the work for the descendants of U.S. blacks from slavery, you really don't know Bill Cosby in that light of the work that he put in. I don't believe you do, because for one, this documentary, the views on it are just too low. That's why I said you could find this film on YouTube. You know, it has a very topic of black history, lost, stolen, or strayed. A topic like that, it doesn't really find itself like in the page of YouTube where Bill Cosby, being a comedian, that's what most of his work is at. Being a comedian or some type of an interview. But this documentary, I'm highly suggesting that the educators in the United States and throughout the world make note, take time out to locate this film. And like I said, it's on YouTube. So if it's on YouTube, what is so hard about, taking some time out and seeing his perspective? That way, when history is really told, he will be able to have the fairness of his reputation for doing work for U.S. blacks, descendant of slavery. So with that being said, and looking at the challenge that I made, and to see this film, it is possible that Harry Guines versus the United States could be put into the school system. That way, we would all be assured that the next generation would know what Lincoln wrote. Bill Cosby was on something when he made this documentary. He was really on something. I mean, he had classrooms. He was right there with the students. But the only thing, like I was saying earlier, was that when you're looking at 1968 from a diverse standpoint, I have to challenge that just by my own lifestyle that I grew up in. Brown versus Topeka, Kansas. Brown versus Topeka, Kansas. Excuse me. That is the case that desegregated public schools in the United States. And by 1968, Brown versus Topeka, Kansas is actually a 1954 case. Okay, so let me get the dates right. 1954 being Brown versus Topeka, Kansas. Here come Bill Cosby doing a documentary, Question. In 1968, the production of the film, of the documentary. But yet, by 1972, all of a sudden, the dates become a question. Is it 1968 or is it 1972? Irregardless, let's look at the film. Find it on YouTube and take some time out. If you have to pause it, you have all kinds of technology to be able to pause. Because that's what Bill Cosby right now. He's in a pause of his life. So, in trying to reach the family of Bill Cosby, as well as Bill Cosby himself, there's no reason for his life to pause. He has enough footage out there that people could use. Well, let me change that word use. Nobody wants to be used. I'm saying utilized. Let me just try to put a little bit more to being utilized. Utilizing the materials of Bill Cosby could be something beneficial to the U.S. blacks of African descent in the 21st century. It could be. But the diversity of his documentary, again, I question it. Based on the date of Brown versus Topeka, Kansas in 1954, then you have this documentary being of 1968 to possibly 1972 as for when it was produced. Okay, but what I'm saying simply is I never went to school with anybody. I never went to school with anybody in the elementary years, high school years. There was never anybody white. No, only person white was the teacher. That was all. There was 12 years of school, public school. I didn't have anyone sitting across from me that was white until college. So with that being said, make sure that we're trying to get something out of this, but yet don't hold everybody, so locked into, hey, this is how it was. You see how open it is? Bill Cosby brought a real strong, diverse documentary. It's very diverse. Some parts of it, because it's in two parts. So you're looking at 2 hours of that pattern of something being diverse, but yet the trend will take you on a journey in time and space prior to the diversity of the public school. That's very important because a lot of people don't see the improvements of the 21st century based on how it once was. Yes, let's say that. Let's just say that. I mean, if you're looking at the black community, if you're looking at it, and from someone who grew up in the 60s and the 70s, let me tell you, St. Louis in particular, and there are probably some other cities that could probably say the same thing. Brown versus Topeka, Kansas, being a case to desegregate public schools in 1954. In St. Louis, that didn't even occur until the 80s. So you have generations in between 54 and the 80s. There's a generation in there that never really saw busing to school. It never happened. So when history is being told, no matter how the icon Bill Cosby tried to show where it could be necessary, it didn't really happen across the country like that. So let's just, we're trying to learn something. He does bring a diverse public school system, and then he shows the trend of the public school system as how it came from being segregated. Okay, now hold on. Like I said, yes, the public school systems were once segregated, and so was the black community once segregated. But now we're looking at, again, in the 21st century, as I look at the black community, and you want me to say that it's better in the 21st century, maybe for some, sure. Even Jesse Jackson would say the same thing. Sure, we've made great strides, but collectively, we haven't came very far at all. And that's Jesse Jackson. He's way older than me. So, you know, a black man, yes, he could reach heights individually. Individually speaking, he can reach great heights. But we are a people who are, how would I say it? We're not a united people on anything. Yes, I'm just going to say that. Not on anything, because you can't even go and get your own neighborhoods clean. You know, I'm just asking the people who live down there to clean your neighborhoods, because how can you say that it is an upgrade to anything by the look of the black community? Now, whether you are looking for somebody to be your savior, to come down there and do some things, well, how long are you going to hold on to that? That thought of somebody is coming. You know, this is going on 2020, and the conditions of the black neighborhood is just dilapidated. You know, it looks like a bomb has been dropped on it, literally. We're talking about the inner city. Yes, the inner city in these major neighborhoods, in these black neighborhoods, I mean, it's just a bloodbath. That's all we're doing. Now, how am I relating all this back to Bill Cosby? I can relate it back to Bill Cosby because if you were to know what Lincoln wrote, Bill Cosby was on that path. He would have had to have been. He saw something in education that just wasn't getting it done. Something education-wise wasn't enough. And more likely is because of how blacks interact with each other. Yes, how black people in the United States interact with each other is very violent. So there's a lot of work to be done in the inner cities as far as how we're acting towards each other. Because prior to desegregation, no, see, it wasn't like that. So we have to look at things. How can things be said to be better that really are not? I mean, you can't convince me of that it's better. It's better for some, but there is a class of people who are maybe working class people who are not skilled and talented. Just that simple. Somebody has to be minimum wage. Somebody has to be. Those people who are still in such a condition of a minimum wage. Now, minimum wage, that's also connected with slavery as far as the perspective of a black person is concerned. Yes, that's all connected. Minimum wage, you know, by the government that enslaved you, setting a minimum wage to things. Yes, that's all connected to slavery. Make sure you understand that. Because your choice of having minimum wage versus having land makes no sense at all. You see, so there should be an edge always for you. And it's in the Constitution, but you're afraid of it because you think you need to be whole. Whole being a white man in the United States. You don't necessarily find an advantage to that when you're drawing minimum wage. So you don't, it just never seems to seem like you ever get equal to a white man. How? You're getting minimum wage. That was considered a wage that the descendants of slavery were tricked into. Yes, they were tricked into a minimum wage. It might seem good to a slave, it would, because he probably never had no money in his pocket anyway, so you could offer him practically anything from what he was used to. But in reality, that would be someone who would be ignorant. The decision that they made to accept minimum wage versus having their own land. You see, so we have to look at things how we have come into this. I mean, how did it happen? How are you accepting minimum wage? How did that happen? Regardless, okay, you can't sing, you can't dance, you can't play basketball, you don't like football. See how you're locked into a certain way of being in order for you to be successful. You must be one of the above. But just you being you, someone who really knows that they're not skilled and talented, but yet you're a descendant of a slave. So how do you ever figure that you could ever get to being equal? Did you start off equal? How could you ever get to being equal? So it's in your thinking that education is going to take you to a higher income. Education could, for some, but whether you want to accept this or not, everybody is not, how would you say, college material. That doesn't mean that they can't earn a living in America, but you're never going to be, say you even completed 4 years of college. Okay, well, the civil service testing for state jobs and federal jobs, they're only looking for people who have an A average. So you graduated, yet somehow you got through it with a C average, trying to pass a state or a federal test, chances are you again, more likely you're going to be falling short, even with a college degree. You see, so you have to look at the whole picture of it. You went through it, but yet still, the income from it, all those years of schooling, it just doesn't seem to add up. You're not skilled and talented, and even now you're educated, but you still can't seem to get equal to a white man. Yes, that is true. You will be struggling and scraping a long time, trying to say you equal to something. You didn't have to. You didn't have to compete you did not have to compete like that. How did you get in this situation? That's all you have to do. How is it that your income, no matter how you try to raise your income, it never happens? It's always something that comes up, car broke down, doctor bills, ends just don't never seem to meet. Because you trying to be equal with a white man. You never had to been placed in that position. It was wrong. It was actually wrong. Because you could never get equal. There's been so many things that you've been deprived of to get you equal. You have to start, somebody would have to listen. First of all, somebody would have to listen. And people don't like to listen today. Especially when it's something that's truthful. Bill Cosby, everyone seems to shun as you fall off. You become invisible because of how you fall off. You become invisible. Yes, you become incarcerated. Then your life just seems to just disappear. No, your life didn't disappear. The people around you disappeared. Yes, that is a fact. Now, why do black people do that? Shun their own icons. You have to keep in mind, I will title this presentation as the good attribute. That is what's important when you're trying to pass judgment of any kind. People say, well, the good may not outweigh the bad. That's true. All your good, the way things are set up, never seem to outweigh the bad. Once the bad hit, all the good doesn't matter anymore. Yes. And black people in the United States will take that position. Yes, they take that position because, they're not able to stop being grudgeful. They're very grudgeful. So they fall in line with mainstream very easily. That's what happens. Now that you locked up, everything pauses. Well, that pause can go a long time, and a man may change somewhere in between that pause. So you never know why that pause has to happen, especially to someone like Bill Cosby, because he has so much footage out. But right now, everybody got him on pause. I disagree with that. That's why I'm here today. I'm here today to show that you don't even know this man. You know nothing about Bill Cosby as far as the work that he put in for the descendants of black people. And the views are just too low. The views are way too low on this film. So you be the judge when you find it on YouTube. You be the judge. Why are you acting like you need to shun this man? That's what I want you to ask yourself. Oh, he committed a crime. Yeah, he did. But there's a lot of crimes being committed today, that if I had to say anything about Bill Cosby, he played hard. Okay, he played hard, but yet the women who wanted to play along, yeah, they went along with it. If anything, Bill Cosby is more likely is guilty of adultery. If I can just get straight to that, he's guilty of adultery, which is a sin. And there's a lot of men that sin today. Now, in his time, like I said, he played hard, using narcotics. Yes. Giving women sedatives. Yes. Now, in doing that, I'm not trying to justify anything, but the women were participants. They were. Now, keep in mind, like, how do you say, like, hippies? No one really uses that phrase anymore. But for Bill Cosby era, Bill Cosby would have been a hippie. Someone who played hard, done drugs. Most people, well, I can't speak for all people in Hollywood, but they do have a reputation, of dealing with narcotics. That happens. And Bill Cosby was just one of them, and it's a shame when they meet the end that way, and how his past came to haunt him because it took this long for these women to surface, but they were playing along back in the day. So consider everything, that when looking at a United States black icon, make sure you look at everything, because even Malcolm X is shocking to some people, a lot of people. They take Malcolm X like he's some type of, I don't want to call him a saint, but he was far from a saint, but today he's definitely an icon without a doubt. But in 1960, the year actually of 1960, there wasn't a white person that probably, other than someone interviewing Malcolm X, that probably would even want to be in the same room with him. I mean, if you interviewing him, yes. But outside of that, no. But today, you accept Malcolm X as a marketing tool. That's basically what he is. I mean, where's all that money go to anyway? I'm just wondering. I mean, I see his family, Betty Sebastian, in the industries of clothing, trying to get their, clothing line, maybe even some cosmetics or something. But, the just the copyright on Malcolm X, you would think that his family would be in really good shape. That, I mean, I don't look at them as being, they're very humble, but none of the interviews or the kind of lifestyle, how you say people would get the kind of money that Malcolm X, the name of Malcolm X makes today. I mean, people are very lavishly living very well. Somebody is living very well off the name of Malcolm X. So when you start to look at those things, and to see how people will be on a bandwagon one minute and off the bandwagon the next. That shouldn't really happen with, we shouldn't toil with our icons like that, even though they may make mistakes. White people are able to recover very quickly from, drama. They're able to recover very quickly, and how you say, let it go. Simply put, they can let it go and they'll start right back again. Grudges with black people can last for centuries. No, seriously, centuries. Because it's born into the next generation. So when you go to ask somebody, well, why am I mad at my cousin? Well, why do I gotta be mad at them? Oh, you don't mess with them. You don't mess with them. Well, why? And then when you really get to the root of it, you want to go back to your auntie and ask her. But you go ask your uncle. He know what he did. Okay, you go ask your uncle. Well, what did auntie do? Go ask her. She know what she did. See, it's been so long ago, they don't even remember what they was mad about each other for decades. And they passed that on to their kids. Yes. So we have to have a different approach to how we interact with each other. It's so easy. It's so easy just to gun a man down in the streets. It's very easy to do that. Listen, most of these incidents, most of them don't even merit trying to come at anybody like that. When it's all said and done. And you in the bullpen later on, your whole life is gone. From that one little split second incident, it's over for your life and the victim. But yet, when we look at it, trying to keep our presentation on the forefront of Bill Cosby, you have a lot of work to do to go through that presentation. That is a lot of work. I want you to go through that presentation and find the good attributes. That will be I will be entitling this presentation as the good attribute. Like I said, even Malcolm today, under his good attributes, he's accepted. But in his lifetime, no. He was scorned by everybody. But in the 21st century, everybody likes Malcolm X. So that just gives you, a perspective as for how we act. We so quick to just place somebody in an invisible status that we never even really knew. You did not know Bill Cosby. Not if you're an activist, because you would have to be able to tell me about this film. And you know nothing about this film or the presentation. You know nothing about it. How does that even, do you even think about that? Like, this being supposed to be a school film, something in school. Well, then how is it that I didn't get it? So these are the things that I'm trying to get you to look at. Now that we are able to see Bill Cosby in a different light, maybe we should be able to cuff him. That's what I'm saying. Maybe trying to look out after him. That's all I'm trying to say. Because there's no reason for him to be invisible like how the people are making him invisible. There's no reason for that. There's too much footage. Now you just want to bar a man off television? That's come on. This man has done too much, for something that he played hard. The women played hard. Everybody's playing hard back in the 60s, So I don't know. I don't see that as something that, for him in particular, y'all try to soften your heart, okay? Because it's a terrible thing when something was to happen to Bill Cosby. It would be too late, and then you would be stuck saying, well, he got what he had coming. We know he got what he had coming. He stood there and told them people on the stand he did that. He told them on the stand. But it just don't come out right. No matter how you try to say that, it don't come out right. Yeah, y'all was partying hard. Yes, y'all was. And it took them this long for them to surface like that. But back then it was nothing but a party. You see, things that happened in the past sometimes shouldn't be judged in the same light as the 21st century. It shouldn't be judged in the same light. Because I'm not trying to justify, You know, anything. I'm not trying to do that. Be it right or be it wrong. I'm not trying to justify it, right or wrong. But sometimes the system does things like, when you dated the freshman in high school, now you are a senior going off to college. Okay, well, if you come back home, you happen to see your girl, but she's still in high school. Now, like I said, in the era of my generation, what's wrong? Ain't nothing wrong. But in the 21st century, no, you're 21 and she's still just 16. You know, because she was a freshman, you was a senior. So there is a difference now that how we view everything from the 20th century, looking at it now in the 21st century, it's really not fair to judge things like that. Not everything. I'm sure you got some aunts that was married at 17, 16, might even been 15, and married. Yes, that's what you find in the 20th century. That's common. So when you start trying to, put all this on certain situations, some people look at that. You know, I'm not saying, like I said, I ain't saying it's right, I ain't saying it's wrong, but I am saying it's new. It is very new. You know, whether it be right or wrong, it's something new how people look at that. For its age and in relationships. They look at that very differently in the 21st century, and you have to know that. You have to know that. You have to be man enough to recognize, hold on, you know, you can't let yourself do what you did in the 20th century. Bringing that into the 21st century, no, it ain't going to work. But yet, in saying all that, I just want people to recognize it is possible for us to do better by each other. Because there's a lot of footage in that film. And my challenge was, along with Harry Guines versus the United States, that you all could get behind something and use those same premises as Bill Cosby. Because nobody's going to listen to me. But if you follow this film, this presentation by Bill Cosby, you might gather something to say, wait a minute, maybe I can see what Harry's talking about. That's all I'm trying to get across today. Because if I showed you the film, again, that's 2 hours. Yes, 2 hours. Everybody today, this 45-minute film that I'm, presentation that I'm trying to put together, even people, hey, can you shorten them some? No, I don't shorten my presentations anymore. No. If you don't have the time, put it on pause and come back to it. Or you can play it in a way where you just listen to my voice if you want to. But yeah, some people really do need to look at Bill Cosby. Reach for him. Okay? Because, in the situation that he's in right now, it's really no need for him to be alone. That's what he may feel. And I'm comfortable knowing that I've done all I could to wake the world up that a person that's incarcerated, you don't have to throw the key away from them like that. You don't have to really do that. So y'all look after, Bill Cosby, because I tried to show you in a way that he partied hard. Okay? He partied hard and he was man enough to say he did certain things. But society wouldn't accept it in the 21st century. So in trying to say all those things that are positive and bringing out the good attributes, I hope that my presentation today is something that we will all go and find. Bill Cosby. This is Harry Guines, and I thank you for listening. It's always good to be around, and y'all check it out and let me know. Meet Bill Cosby.